All right, we're live.
All right, cool. Hey, everybody. We're going to get started in, 30 seconds at this point. I know that I am running late, so just a couple seconds to till we get going.
We can get started.
All right, sounds good. So hi, I'm Helen. I'm attorney at Waypoint Immigration USA, and we're here to talk about NIW applications. And does publishing papers help with an industry case in that kind of a combination aspect? But first of all, an NIW stands for National Interest Waiver. This is a self-sponsored application that would lead to a green card, and you can be from anywhere in the world and apply for this. You don't have to be in the United States on a specific visa status or anything. And it also does not grant you a status. So if you are outside of the US and you do get an EB-2 NIW approved, you would not be able to come here until you got that green card. You would have to come on a different status. A lot of clients are on like H-1B or something along those lines. But you can be from anywhere in the world. It just doesn't grant you a status. So if you are in America, whatever status you're on, you would have to maintain until you got your green card. And if you're from pretty much any country, there is a backlog. Probably at this point, we're guessing like 3 to 5 years. And if you're from like China or India, your wait is obviously a lot longer. If you look at the visa bulletin, the wait it crawls that the progression in the visa bulletin for those countries, unfortunately. But just a quick underlying case, as to understanding those initial things. So how can you apply for an NIW? So this is looking to see if the work you are doing can make an immediate impact on the United States. So if you're in America or outside of America, whenever you would get your green card, you'd have to be impactful here. So, thinking along the lines of tech and healthcare and infrastructure impact in different kind of areas like finance or, like urban planning, development, or something with, healthcare as far as integrating AI or technology, or maybe you're helping with a vaccine or some sort of diagnostic testing or treatment. These are the kinds of things that a lot of people are doing to do an NIW case. So traditionally, people kind of think of it as if you have publications and citations, you're able to then show your impact as to how you're helping kind of move things along in your industry and, making your impact through that way. But people that are in industry that are not researchers, they can still apply for NIWs and be successful. I would say most of our clients are in industry. They're more of the non-traditional case, if you will, where they are showing a real life impact then. So instead of having your impact come through publications and research, they're doing it through real life projects and have impact that way. But with that being said, you can have some crossover for sure. We do have some people that are in AI and tech and things like that that are also doing research and publishing papers and things like that. So, I guess my question would be, first of all, do you want to do this? Do you want to publish papers? Like, I wouldn't just be publishing papers because you think it might help your NIW case. I would say, is this something that's going to help your career? Does it make sense for you to do this? Are you going to be doing like a book chapter, or you could do an article in a scholarly journal, or you can maybe write some sort of a technical paper or a white paper. Even maybe some blogs. Most of the time we say blogs don't really help, but some of the blogs that have like an audience that are of the technical sort. So when I say that, we would be looking to whatever you're publishing, the audience should have some specialized knowledge in your field. So, that way they can read what you wrote, they can learn from it, obviously, and they can have it impact their own work and kind of create a ripple effect of, innovation. I always tell people, if it's something that like a general population, like if I'm reading it, I'm an attorney, whatever you're doing is probably not related to what I'm doing, but I would learn from you. I would learn whatever it is that you had to say, but I'm not going to do anything with it. For instance, if you're writing something on, AI in healthcare or whatever it is, I'm not going to be able to help that actually come about or have some sort of ripple effect of impact, because that's not my field. So I'm looking more for what kind of audience is reading this. Is it someone that is technical? Is it open to everybody? Because that really does make a difference. Because if you are looking to make that impact, you have to tell someone and share your ideas with someone that's going to do something with that information, because you're not really making an impact then if you're just telling it to someone that's, it's going to be stagnant. They're not going to do anything. You want it to kind of merge things forward, push things forward, and create that ripple effect. So if another person in your field reads it, not only they're obviously gaining knowledge, but then they're also going to, you're going to give impact to that person, because maybe they'll change something in their day-to-day work, or they're going to maybe cite to you even, like, that could also kind of come about too. So we're looking to show how whatever it is that you're doing will create that kind of a ripple effect. And I know it doesn't always make sense for those in industry to publish. So there are other ways other than publishing. So you can go to conferences, have some sort of speaking engagement. Again, it's, in my mind, it's all about how can you share your specialized knowledge with other specialists in the field. So it doesn't have to be through publications. It could be through, like being on a judge panel, being really active in some sort of professional organization. Maybe you're, again, you can do like conference presentations. So I was talking with Jason earlier, and there's really two things that I'm kind of looking for. The activity that you have done, it can probably have two ways to be used in an NIW. One would be, okay, well, this person has the knowledge because they completed this activity. It shows that they have that knowledge, that experience. Like, for example, getting a certification shows that you have additional knowledge and experience. Going to a conference shows that, okay, I've gained additional knowledge and experience. But neither one of those things shows that you have impacted anything, because you haven't given out the information. You have received the information. So if you are only receiving the information, you're gaining that knowledge, but not making that impact. It's when you then give that information out that you are making that impact. So there could be things that you are, doing both. Like if you attend and go to a speaking engagement where you are attending and also making that presentation, that shows both. If you, so that's kind of how I'm thinking about these things. Are you only receiving information, or are you giving out that information? And a lot of the time, some of the tech people I've seen are only receiving that information. We have to show that you're also giving it out to others. So, publications is an obvious way, but, I would only have you do that if it makes sense for you. Some people it does make sense for, or, making some sort of, maybe you're a peer reviewer. If you present at a conference, that's typically kind of equal in a way to publications, because you're still like giving out information in a way. If you have any sort of like impact that you are making outside of your job, and the impact that you're making within your job needs to also be established, and it needs to have supporting documents. So all of these things need supporting documents. So we can't just, use a reference letter and show to USCIS, oh, yes, this person is being impactful because they got, 18 reference letters. Like, those reference letters are not going to overcome, no matter how many you have, if you don't have any actual third party, like objective type of evidence. You could have like the best reference letters in the world, and I think that it would be very highly unlikely for you to actually get approved based upon only reference letters. But if once you kind of couple the reference letters with supporting documents, now you have a much more powerful case where you're having someone help tell the narrative of how you're being impactful, why you are unique, how you have that special knowledge. And they're also tying in for the officers, so they can see like, okay, well, this letter is describing a project, and now I also have a third party document that shows that this person did do actually that project and it did have an impact. Or, you have someone talk about your publication and then you actually have the publication or your Google Scholar profile or ResearchGate or, anything like that. And, it's not just always about what you're publishing, but where you're publishing it. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's really important to kind of realize who that audience is. Obviously, the harder it is to publish, the more prestigious it is, and therefore would have higher weight, versus something that might be easier to publish or have a lower audience, that isn't quite that learned audience that I'm talking about. So, not all publications are obviously equal in that way. So looking to see, how difficult was it to publish? Who is actually reading these things? Are they doing anything with your work? So that's kind of like a general idea. And I guess this is really kind of applies to those in research and not in research. Just overall, this is how we're looking for impact. We're looking to share that impact with the officer. And again, it really is about showing both that you do have the knowledge and that you are being impactful. Those are two separate things we have to have proof of. It's not enough just to say, oh, yes, I have the knowledge. I've seen people that have like 10 plus certifications, but nothing else. Like, okay, well, that person clearly has, additional specialized knowledge, but are they doing anything with it? Are they being impactful with it? Do they have anything to show for it? So it's really important to get documentation that can prove these things, that you are making an impact on your field, beyond just your employer, because, this is what I always say is the greedy American application. What's in it for us? Why would America as a whole, as a country care? America doesn't necessarily care if you are making Amazon more money. That's great for Amazon, but how are you helping us? How are you helping America? Like, how does that have a ripple effect out into the economy or into the healthcare or some sort of public safety effect, or helping America be more independent from other foreign countries in many different ways, supply chain or energy, those sorts of things, semiconductor chips. And these are all things that, America kind of prioritizes. Public health, public safety, finance, economy impact, of course, energy and, technology innovation. Of course, there's a lot with AI and how AI is definitely, want to stay at the forefront of that and kind of keep up with the world in a lot of ways. So, it could also be with policy, like if you're helping to change educational policies or some sort of policy that's, vital to America, that is, widely spread. That's also could be important. Like I had a conversation with someone that was a teacher. And I said, they've said specifically teaching is not impactful beyond, to like a national sort of a level. But if you are in education and you are changing curriculum or policy, something like that, that's when it goes from being closed to impact in just the classroom to now impacting much more of a broad range of people and, the country and things like that. So I guess we will turn it over for any questions. If you have any, please put them into the comments. We'll try to get to them. We also do a free assessment if you are interested in EB-2 NIW on our website. You can just answer a few questions and input your like your resume or CV or something like that. And if you are a researcher and you have like a Google Scholar page, it's always helpful to kind of add it in. But if your resume shows that you have publications, typically I will look you up to see if you do have a Google Scholar page or ResearchGate while I'm looking at it. So if you're just, upfront about it, that's just helpful to me, or like a link in your resume or whatever. So that way I can kind of see, where was it published? Are there citations? And kind of get a little bit more input than what is typically on a resume. But yeah, so let's go to questions. And if you're watching it on the recorded version, you can pop in comments anyway, and I can always come back and comment back or DM you or something like that.
Is NIW a realistic path from someone straight out of college if the resume shows a lot of research, internships, etc.?
Well, my question is, if you are a recent grad, what kind of impact have you had? Like, it doesn't necessarily matter to me, like if you've had internships or not. I want to know, what have you done at those internships? If you have publications, where have they been published? Do you have citations? What does that kind of look like? Are you a researcher profile or an industry profile? Because a researcher profile, you're going to probably have to show more publications and more things like that than an industry profile because it's not as typical. So I would definitely need more information, but if you're interested in pursuing an NIW, we do that free assessment that we can see everything collectively and have a better idea.
So no other questions? Right, there is one. Well, Nadia asks, will an educational video that will be shown to college students help with a successful case? I will make this video myself. There is a teacher who is interested in such a video.
That sounds like your audience is obviously college level, and that sounds very much like a teaching activity. So teaching activity is not impactful beyond, to the national level. So to me, that would not count towards a national impact. Typically, the audience that we are looking for, which I did not specify and I really should have, is, postgraduate people, professionals. So young professionals, that's fine, or senior professionals, anywhere like in the professional field. We're not looking for high school level. We're not looking for college level. Mentorship is also actually a good way to show impact, but that should, again, not be, through your daily job. If it's something that you are supposed to do because it's in your job description, that doesn't really count because you're just helping your own company and that benefits only your company. So if you are doing mentorship, that could be definitely helpful if it's through like a professional membership organization that is not college level.
What are current trends with tech apps, advancements in healthcare?
Well, we definitely have gotten some recent approvals with that. So, AI and healthcare, I feel like, is a pretty strong combination there because you have both of the, the need for staying at the top of technological innovation. AI is kind of exploding. And then when you couple that into the context of healthcare, people as a whole are always trying to, eradicate cancer or get better treatments, better access, and better things like that. So I feel like public health is always strong. And when you combine the two, they typically are a very good industry. But just keep in mind that the officer is not evaluating your industry, they're evaluating you. So how are you being impactful in the industry? Because just because your field is impactful doesn't mean that you are. And they literally write that out in our fees that I've seen. So you want to make sure that you are, talking as specifically to you, what you will be doing, what you already have done, and that sort of a context.
If you can show major impact as an undergrad, employment or a master's isn't required?
Yeah, so I mean, there's different ways to qualify. There's the advanced degree, which is if you have a bachelor's plus 5 years of progressive experience, or a master's degree, or if you don't have a bachelor's, or if it's not equivalent to a US bachelor's, you can show you have exceptional ability. So that's where you would meet 3 out of 6 criteria. One of them could be, some sort of education that you've had. So you could still use your, bachelor's that wasn't quite equivalent or whatever kind of maybe additional things that you've gotten. If you've had like 10 plus years experience, if you've gotten some sort of high salary, if you've gotten any sort of recognition from, experts in the field through like publications, or it could be some sort of an award or, conference speaking. If you have a membership that's related to what you do. I think I'm probably forgetting maybe one other one at this point, but you can still qualify under meeting 3 out of those 6 criteria, or if you have a bachelor's that is equivalent to an American bachelor's plus those 5 years of progressive experience. So that's the very important part. The progressive part, it has to be, that you weren't just in the same, like scientist 1, you were promoted, maybe now you're scientist 2 or senior scientist or something where maybe you jumped to a different company and your level of like job description elevated or something like that.
No other questions? You can talk a bit about reference letters and how to show all of this in reference letters.
Yeah, so reference letters are super vital for this kind of an application. We usually like to get a variety of them. So we want to make sure each letter is saying something new, that they're not just a carbon copy talking about the same project in 5 different ways. So typically I like to get like a work related letter from like a current supervisor, manager to show, what kind of projects are you working on? You want to make sure that they are specific, that they're talking about specific projects, what the goals of that project was, your specific role on the project, and how that project was impactful. It could be on the company, but it definitely has to also be how is it impactful beyond your company? Because that's really what we're talking about here. We want to know how is it impacting America? What kind of end result would America care about in this specific scenario? Another one could be an academic letter where maybe you're a recent grad and you have, maybe like a master's thesis or some sort of major project that you did during your educational degree, if you're a PhD, your dissertation or something like that. And so your academic letter would be from that professor that you did the specific thing with, because again, we don't want it to be just a general letter, because if they just say, oh yes, they had very high grades and they were a great student, like we can get that from the transcript. So that letter is really not bringing anything new, because we can get that information from your transcript. So what can we get that's new would be this project information. So again, wanted to talk about like, any sort of maybe accomplishment that you've had also during your academic journey, but definitely want to have concrete examples. Something else that could also talk about is maybe how your degree will help you in the future to do the sorts of things that you're doing. Like there's a client that we've had that just got an RFE, and they were talking about how their combination of 2 masters and a PhD, they weren't understanding how it related to their field as to what they were doing, even though we did describe it. So we have to just describe it again in a different kind of way. But, so a letter like that might make sense if maybe it's a little more confusing also how your degree might be related to what you want to do. And another kind of letter would be definitely an independent letter. So that is someone that has not supervised you, managed you, or taught you. So we're showing that they have like a neutral relationship where they're only talking about you and your credentials. So it's not a friend, it's not, anything like that. So this should be someone that has a higher up job, if at all available. Because this person should have some sort of overview of your industry, how it is in America. If you're out of the country, it's important to get, I think, an independent letter from someone in America, if you can, to talk about how you are unique and you can create change here in America in your field. So that independent letter is really important, and that really does talk to like the national impact of what you can do here, how you can make an effective change immediately, and have that neutral kind of thing. So this could be someone that you maybe met through a membership organization or at a conference presentation. It could be someone that's cited to you. I think that that's a pretty powerful letter, since that person's familiar with your work, but obviously in a neutral way, because you don't know them personally, but they recognize the value of what you put out there and used it to help further their own research. That's really powerful. And if you are out of the US, I call it like a letter of intention, where it's not like a job offer or anything, but like how it could be intended for you to make an impact here. So, obviously you are making an impact in whatever country you're currently in, but we need to kind of translate to how does that look in America? So science is science everywhere, but there's definitely nuances in the industries and different needs and priorities of every country. So kind of like shifting that focus as to what that looks like in the US context and how we as a country could benefit from your work. Reference letters should ideally also have company letterhead when possible. Sometimes that's not always the case, and then therefore the person kind of signs it in a personal capacity, which is also okay, as long as they include their contact information like email, phone, and address. And we also like to include like their LinkedIn profile or their CV or their company profile to show the officer that, yes, this person does have the appropriate knowledge and experience to be able to comment professionally on you as an individual.
So we have time for just 2 more questions. Given an estimate of what the process costs from start to finish.
Yeah, sure. So for at our firm, it's 9605, and that includes everything. That includes the filing, the regular filing fees. That includes us strategizing your case, helping shape your proposed endeavor. We write your reference letters for you, give them to you to edit and tweak if needed, and also for whoever ends up signing it, of course. We do the forms, we label and organize all of the supporting documents, we do the appropriate research, we write the entire petition letter, and then we mail it out overnight to FedEx. And that's typically about, I would say, 3 to 5 months. A lot of it really does depend on the client because it is definitely more of a partnership where we do need those supporting documents from you. We have the clients fill out a couple of worksheets for us to kind of understand more about their work and who could write a reference letter so we kind of know who we have to pick from and maybe why one would be a stronger choice over someone else. So there's more upfront work in the process in order to give us that information that we need. And there's some back and forth in order to be able to do that. And we do that mainly on email, of course. It's just easier, and we have like a drive for you to upload all of your documents. And we could meet with someone if things kind of pop up. And yeah, and then that does not include like premium processing. So if you did want to do that, you'd have to pay the additional filing fee. And it also does not include an R fee if one were to be triggered. So, but it does include, like I said, the filing fees, prepping everything, the strategy, and it's like it's a full service. Other than like obviously we need your supporting documents and things up front.
So just real quick, one last question. A PhD in progress and master's with less than 4 years experience could be a good case for NIW. What are your expert opinions on it?
It depends on what kind of impact you've made. So we're not looking for a certain number of years you've worked or certain degrees you've earned. We're looking how have you been impactful. So that would be through, publications or real world industry impact or some other sort of thing that you've done. But that's not really the correct question as to how we're looking for what we're looking for in this kind of a context. So I would definitely urge you to, do the free assessment. We'll give you some feedback if we think that your profile is good to go or if it's in need of additional, profile building or development or something like that.
All right. All right. So
Great.
that's all the time we have.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.